If you're old enough to remember when phones had cords and the only thing that went viral was a cold, then you're in the right place. Welcome to the Big 6-0 with Kaylee Harris and Guy Rawlinson. Because who better to discuss life's second act than two people who still think mature is a type of cheese?
Well, welcome to the Big 6-0. If it's the first time you're with us, welcome. And of course, I'm joined with the woman that's probably proof that caffeine is not required to maximise the volume. Kaylee Harris, how are you?
Hello.
I say that and I've got a coffee in my hand, but I'm probably having a double dose with you here.
I'm laughing because, you know, when we joined Riverside, you put your name up on the corner of the screen.
Don't you dare tell anyone what we've got up on our screen.
You wrote your name. That's very funny.
My name isn't Hugh. Let's just say that.
Okay.
My name isn't Hugh. Yeah, and I don't have a Scandinavian surname. Yeah, you big spunk, you.
Oh my gosh, that's very funny. I'm sorry, I've completely thrown us off the track. But this time we want to talk about family holidays when we were growing up, because I suspect that they were the same for a lot of Aussie kids, right? Would you agree?
Yeah, and they didn't involve, 6 weeks in some small African nation. They were all pretty basic, really, weren't they?
Yeah, it was somewhere up the coast. If you were lucky, you got as far as the Goldie.
Yeah, and there's usually like an E.H. Holden or an EU Falcon or something involved in the trip and the stories that went along with it. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to start?
Yeah.
Tell us.
Oh, where do you start with family holidays? Look, we had a few. Predominantly, though, it revolved around 11 months of planning for the same holiday every year. And even as an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old, whatever it was, you knew that Christmas was a big time of the year, and you knew that come 5 o'clock on Boxing Day morning, you were heading up to the Goldie. But the day before, or the 2 days before, the car had to be packed, and Dad had to wash the car, make sure the air pressure was right.
What was with that? What was with Dad's washing the car before you go and hit the road? I mean, doesn't that defeat the purpose? My dad was the same.
Yeah, no, the car had to be washed and it was vacuumed and the tyres had to be blackened, and you had to be up at Sparrows on Boxing Days to get away early because every other bugger was going to be getting away exactly the same time.
And it would take 14 hours to get to Queensland back
Oh
then.
my gosh. I mean, the freeway up the coast these days is a lot better. I think the only place you really stop is sort of Coffs Harbour. Yeah. But other than that, it was a trunch up the coast, wasn't it?
Oh, it was amazing. And I think that, I was born in Queensland. So for us, every year going back would be to see family and see grandma and grandpa and uncles and aunts and cousins and stuff like that. But like you said, we'd be up at 3 o'clock in the morning. You grab your pillow, you go out and jump in the back seat with no seat belts, and you put your pillow up against the window and you'd have a sleep until, got a bit lighter. But one of the things I remember fondly of those trips to Queensland is my sister and I would be sitting in the back seat, and if Dad would overtake another car, we would press our faces up against the window on the side of that car, and we'd both shove a finger up our nose, and then we'd put a stupid look on our faces. So when we went past, the kids in the back seat of that car would see us and start laughing. Or either that, or we gave them the middle finger because our dad was cooler because he was going faster.
Oh,
I mean, anything to make that time go past, because it was such a long trip to Queensland.
It was, wasn't it? You if you were like us, the first indication that you actually got it were the toll gates on the Central Coast. Like there used to be
Cowan,
those toll.
or just before Cowan.
That's
so
right.
From Hornsby to those toll gates, which is about 10 k's or something, it was bumper to bumper.
And for those listeners that may not have grown up in Sydney and Australia for that case, Hornsby is a sort of an outlying northern suburb of Sydney. And if you're heading up the coast towards Queensland, which is the state sort of just immediately north of New South Wales, there were toll gates. and there used to be little baskets in them, and you used to have, I think it was like 20 cents that you had to pay and throw into the basket to continue going up the wasn't the freeway because you were paying. And how many times do cars backed up because some idiot
have 20 cents
or missed the basket?
The basket. I know.
Yeah, it was a bucket that was about as big as Tasmania, and you'd throw the 20 cents in to keep driving and get the little green light that would come on.
That's right. Yeah,
and off you'd go.
Gates at some
no,
point,
it was just
it was just a green light.
Just a green light. I don't even. I'm assuming there was a camera there. I mean, I think everyone had that honesty sort of thing anyway. That there may have been a camera. It might have been there. It might have been not. But everyone used to throw that 20 cents in, and off they'd go. Wait for the little green light. Except for that one person that would miss the basket, forgot about. Yeah.
Then you'd stop somewhere up around the oat milk factory, up somewhere in Newcastle, and then you'd continue on through Bulahdelah and throw up because you'd be going through the Bulahdelah bends.
Anyone that hasn't done it will be wondering what on earth we're talking about. But yes, the Bulahdelah bends was a fun...
which was a very windy road over a mountain.
Yeah. Mum used to pack the lunch or the morning tea, so you'd make sure you stop at Taree or wherever. And so our regular stops would have been Taree, and then we might have stopped at Coffs Harbour because the big banana.
Yeah, you'd stop at the big banana.
Yeah, and then usually Ballina, and then then we'd go on, and Dad would always say, best fish and chips are in Ballina, we need to stop here. And I'm thinking, right, okay, maybe we do, maybe we don't. But what about in the car, apart from putting your finger up your nose and pulling faces?
Oh, yeah, I know, right?
Did you play any games in the car to pass the time?
I Spy. We played that because I think every kid played I Spy. But we used to fight a lot. My sister and I fought a lot when we were growing up, and I can remember my mum sitting in the front seat, and she used to constantly say, "Will you girls knock it off?" And she'd put a hand back between the seats, and she'd whack us on the legs because we'd be fighting and carrying on, and we just fought like girls do at that. Siblings do, I guess, at that age. But, and Mum would pack the lunch to save money. And if we were lucky, we would stop somewhere, like you said, at Ballina, maybe get some potato scallops. And Mum would tear off a little bit of the paper and hold the scallop in it and pass it back to us and all those things that you remember. And then Dad trying to find radio stations up the coast, different rural radio stations, and because they'd come in and out they'd fade in and out. So he'd be trying to find the local station. And
in the days of AM radio, and Dad we'd be coming back, and we were into cricket. So like Dad would have whatever the station, the cricket, usually the ABC or whatever.
Yeah.
But it would fade in and out, and you'd be listening to 2BN Ballina or whatever it was that you were listening to on the road. But I remember the games. It used to be like the order in the court, where your monkey wants to talk and you weren't allowed to talk for 5 minutes, and you'd try and be making your siblings, you'd do something, and the first one to talk is a whatever. So we had all those games. But I remember the first time I actually went on a little holiday with a friend in their car, and I can't even remember where it was, somewhere up the coast. It might have only been up to the Central Coast. And they used to have the punch buggy game, and I had no idea what punch buggy was.
What is that?
Well, in simple terms, you drive along, and the first person to see a Volkswagen Beetle got to punch the other person in the arm or wherever.
Great.
And I remember the conversation with this person, and they said, "You want to play punch buggy?" And I'm thinking, great. And before I even had a chance to know what it was, I've copped this punch in the arm because he'd seen a Volkswagen Beetle. And that was my initiation into punch buggy, because I just got punched in the arm. What was that for?
Yeah.
Punch buggy,
Yeah. Or the other one was trying to work out a few words from the number plate of the car in front. So, if it was, I don't know, KAH, which is my initials, you'd go, is it kangaroo, something, and you'd just try and come up with something creative out of the number plates.
My girls used to do that, and I never knew that game. So I was never very good at it as an adult. And they're just like bang, bang, bang. And I'm thinking, wow, what is this game? But if they're entertained, and having said that, we used to bore them a lot. And they have fond memories about this. This is their holidays, where we used to play a lot of Beach Boys and whatnot in the car on the way up.
Nice,
and
nice.
Nice for us. But they have fond memories about that now. So do you have any fond memories of, probably not listening to the cricket, but fond memories of either what was on the radio or what was said, or because they were like 12 and 14-hour trips. That was a long time.
Yeah, I can just remember each town that you would go through or you would come into. As you were approaching that town, there'd be a sign on the side of the road saying 2BE Ballina or something, and the frequency, so that you knew what to tune into and you knew how to find that local radio station. I can remember that. But I just remember it was mainly music, listening to music and stuff like that on the radio. There was no other ways to listen to music. So
no, that you couldn't sort of get the Wi-Fi happening, or even I don't even know if we had a cassette player in our car back then.
We didn't. We just had a radio. We had the old HR Holden with no seatbelts, and but I do remember the fighting. I remember my sister and I fought a lot and upset Mum and Dad. And then Dad started driving to Queensland overnight, so we'd be asleep and wouldn't fight. And then we'd arrive at Tweed Heads at sunrise,
Oh, and that's the thing, isn't it? Like, it was a quest. It was a mission. It was military precision, usually. And, it was. If you left at 3 o'clock in the morning, as you guys did, we didn't leave till 5. We were quite civil. But the fact that every other bugger was leaving, and so everyone was convinced if they left early, they'd avoid the traffic.
That's right, yeah. And everyone did that.
And everyone did exactly the same thing.
Yeah,
so lots of fun memories, as well as the metal seatbelt that would burn on your leg, or the vinyl seats in the back when you'd go out and, let's go and stretch our legs, and then you hop back in and you burn your backside on the seats and all that sort of thing. And then off you go again. Wind down the window. If you're hot, wind down the window, because it's an Australian summer and there was no air conditioning in those cars.
It certainly wasn't. But when you actually got to where you were going, to your destination, like we would get to, my grandparents lived at Kirra on the Gold Coast. And
I know Kirra really well, yeah.
Yeah, we'd stay at their house and go down the beach every day. And it was so different because kids were just left to their own devices. I can remember sometimes Grandma would come down with us, or Mum and Dad would come with us, but my sister and I would just go out into the ocean. I don't think we were swimming between the flags. Maybe we were. I don't remember them. But you just sit there for hours and hours on the beach making sandcastles and swimming and getting sunburnt. And that was the holiday.
And there was another thing too, back in the day. I remember doing this. I used to smell like fish and chips sometimes because my grandmother used to mix up a mixture of olive oil and vinegar after you'd been in the sun. And the olive oil... Yeah, and the olive oil was supposed to, if you got sunburnt, well, hello, if you got sunburnt, you probably should have been doing something about it. But if you got sunburnt, a bit of colour on you, as it would be back in the day, then the olive oil would replenish the whatever the sun took out, and the vinegar would take the sting out of it.
Take the sting away, yeah. Well, for my grandma, it was butter, which effectively cooks your skin.
Yes.
The skin's burning anyway, and no, butter will take the sting away, and we were effectively cooking our skin.
Yeah.
She didn't mean anything malicious. She didn't know.
Well, there's probably things that we did to our kids that, they'll look at in another 10 or 20 or 30 or whatever years and say, oh, my gosh, I can't believe our parents did that. But they use the information they had at the time, and, there's probably a lot of reasons that you probably had things burnt off you and I've had things burnt off me because of that, or we've got lucky. But do you think those family holidays, do you think I always remember there used to be a little bit of tension. I don't know whether it always brought families together when they're on holidays, or the kids were left to their own devices and Mum and Dad had sort of like a week or 2 weeks of, oh my gosh, got to.
I think it was more stressful for the parents to be on holidays, even though I guess you wish it wasn't. You wish they got a chance to relax. But as I said, my sister and I fought on the way there and on the way home, being stuck in the back seat of the car. But once we were on holidays, they're some of my fondest memories of my time with my sister. With those things that we did on the Gold Coast, like going to SeaWorld and spending hours on the beach, stuff like that.
SeaWorld, wow, you were rich.
Well, no, we weren't actually. I had an uncle working there. So one of my uncles did the ski show, was involved in the ski show.
Wow, and, you're famous.
He was. And, so we would be able to get in there at a very reduced rate. And so we spent a fair bit of time at SeaWorld growing up. And then just down the road from SeaWorld, there used to be Marineland. There was another version of it, I think, that was down the road. And then years later, there was also on that peninsula at Southport was BirdLife Park.
Yep.
And after my uncle left SeaWorld, he went and managed BirdLife Park. So we would go there for holidays.
Yeah,
and
there was so
stay,
much.
in on the property. He had a house on the property, and it was just amazing. Yeah.
The PR Guy helps businesses tell their story clearly and credibly. From PR to podcast production and marketing, it's communication without the spin. Visit theprguy.com.au.
I mean, you obviously had family up there. My folks, even I think it was just before they got married. How wrong was that to actually go on a holiday with your girlfriend or boyfriend before you were married? But they drove up
Yeah.
from Sydney for a weekend to the Gold Coast and came back
Oh my
in Dad's '57
gosh.
Volkswagen, and I
Oh
think
my
that was
God.
always just a fond place for them. So that was always the holiday. Thankfully, we didn't have to go up in a Beetle. I mean, that would have been a whole
Can
lot
you
of fun. Just
imagine?
yeah.
I remember also when around the corner from my grandparents' place at Kira, there was like a news agency, and they had comics, and I'd go around there and get my Richie Rich comics and all the different comics, and because we had to have a nap in the afternoon, and I'd go back, and Mum said, you don't have to go to sleep, but you do have to lie down, and we'd have a lie down, and I'd read my comics, and then I'd go back the next day and swap it out for a different comic. You could return them, and you could borrow them, not buy them. I think you could return them for like 5 cents or something and get another one. And that was another fond memory for me of the holidays of reading the comics.
Wow, comics. That's another podcast altogether. The kids actually look at comics anymore. I wouldn't think they do,
know.
would they?
I'd love to see
Can
an
you
old Richie
buy them?
Rich comic or
Oh,
Scrooge McDuck
100%.
comic or something like that.
I've still got a box of comics. Like I'm saying, 40 or 50 comics just sitting up there. Scrooge McDuck, Richie Rich, all those sort of things. I might take them on next holiday. Might take them on the next holiday.
Oh, good! I'm coming there. I want to read them. I can remember my grandma used to make fruit salad for us while we were there. Over a lot, and I could never work out. It took me years to work out why grandma's fruit salad was so much nicer than anybody else's fruit salad. And it was years later I worked out that she used to sprinkle icing sugar on it. And
Oh,
it was so good. And can we have some of grandma's fruit salad? Addicted to it. And then one year, I think it was 1974, I was 10. And my parents bought me the single of January by Pilot, the song, and for Christmas. And Grandma had an old record player. And I said, Grandma, can I put my new record on? She's like, all right. So I put it on and put the needle on it and turned it up. And I just thought this was the best thing ever. This song was so good. As soon as it finished, I put it back to the beginning. And I did that about 15 times. And finally, Grandma goes, will you turn that racket off? That's another memory.
Put on a bit of Perry Como, something
That's
sensible.
Right. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh! Yeah.
So apart from Queensland, did you go anywhere else for holidays as a family?
We did. When I was 14, the family, I had an aunt who'd moved to America, aunt and uncle, and Mum and Dad took us to the States for a big family 4-week holiday to see the family over there. That was a next level trip, and again, my sister and I fought the whole time. I can remember Mum and Dad took us to Disneyland, and my sister and I had an argument. So Dad had to go somewhere, had to take me somewhere to another side of Disneyland while my mum took my sister somewhere in another direction before we killed each other. I remember that. But yeah, that trip to America where we got to know our cousins for the first time, and it was just, it was next level. But I do remember it being very stressful for Mum and Dad because it would have cost them a fortune.
What an
and
adventure,
flying over
though.
there on the 747,
What an adventure for a 14-year-old to go that far.
Going to Universal Studios, and we went to New Orleans, and my aunt said to my mum, when you take the girls to New Orleans, if you walk around Bourbon Street and around those, the French Quarter, hang on to the girls because people grab them off the streets and sell them for slavery in South America. And I can remember my mum, we were walking up, there was tourists everywhere, and Mum lost sight of me for a minute. Next minute, he's, oh my God, Capulet! He's screaming, like, whoa, my God. She thought we'd been sold for slavery. to South America. So it's funny the little things you remember about the trip.
You were wandering off looking for Richie Rich comics, weren't you?
I was.
Yeah, yeah.
I was looking for Sean Cassidy, actually.
Oh, don't go there.
Don't start. I know I won't.
Don't start. Sean, please do something about this. Get in touch with Kaylee. Did you ever used to send remember postcards? Wherever you went,
yes.
You'd have the postcard and the big, like the revolving stand out the front of news agents, and you'd spend ages trying to find just the right postcard to send one.
Postcard that really resonated with your holiday, right?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I love sending postcards.
And you used to get home before the postcard actually ever arrived, usually?
Usually, yes.
Yeah, so you'd post it, and then auntie someone or a friend, you'd usually send one to a friend, and you'd get home, and then they'd get the postcard 3 days after you got back, and you think, oh.
And you try and cram in as much as you could on the left-hand side of the back of the postcard and of what you'd done on your holidays. And it was really weird because knowing that everyone who touched that postcard on its journey back to Sydney or whatever could read what you'd written. It was just out there for public consumption. Yeah,
that's a good point, isn't it? I mean, you get all these privacy things that you've got going on today. And you've got male people just saying, oh, look, Kaylee's done this or Kaylee's doing that. And good. That's great. I'm sure there was a lot of laughs.
Yeah, well, I found a postcard because one trip Mum and I and my sister flew up to Queensland to see Grandma, and Dad couldn't come, he had to work. And I found an old postcard that I wrote back to my dad in little children's writing, and it's, "Dear Daddy, I love you. I miss you. I wish you were here. Love, Kaylee." And it brought a tear to my eye. I was looking at it. Oh wow! I remember that little girl. She missed her daddy. Yeah. Yeah.
I have to say, we didn't go to America as a kid, but I remember we went on I must have been about 14. Maybe that was the time, and we went to Fiji. Wow. And that was a whole another sort of experience for a kid that's just used to seeing Broadbeach or Kira or,
What do you remember about Fiji back then?
I remember that apology to all my Fijian friends out there, but I got very tired very quickly of another Polynesian dance sort of thing. And I'm thinking, there's only so much culture I can take in a 10-day trip. But I do remember really, really vividly, I think it was a friend of Dad's, that there was one of those kava drinking ceremonies.
Yes.
And this bloke, and I don't know what's in these things. I mean, allegedly it's quite toxic, but I remember this very quiet sort of man becoming very boisterous, and all of a sudden he was the life of the party. And so I don't know what they put in those things, but
I wonder.
I remember that. I remember, a bit like North Queensland, where you actually virtually got a golf club out and started hitting toads because there were a lot of toads everywhere.
There were cane toads all over the road, weren't there? In the cane burning season.
That's right. So there's a lot of those little things that you remember. We had a girl, and you may or may not know her. We won't use their name, but I remember being in year 3, and they got taken to the US. That was their holiday. They used to go on a holiday to the US. And I was so jealous because I couldn't even picture what that was like. The closest I got to the US was watching The Wonderful World of Disney on a Sunday night on TV.
Yeah.
But they went there. And once again, up until that point, it was the Goldie once a year and sometimes Long Jetty or the entrance on the Central Coast.
Yeah, it's like Woi.
Woi, we're home of the brave, land of the free. That was the extent of my global travels, Central Coast.
I think when I was 14, I was obviously in high school, but I can remember it was a really big deal. And when I got back to school to start, in January, whenever we went back to school, all the kids were like, oh, what was it like? What was America like? And we were very popular because our parents must be super rich, but they obviously weren't. But and I think Mum and Dad went into a significant debt to pay for that trip. But
did you ever go camping as a kid?
No, we weren't a camping family. I didn't go camping until I was in my 20s, and then started going away with friends camping. But I'm not my favourite holiday idea. What about you?
Oh, once again, we went camping once, I think, as a family, and it was up at a place called Scott's Head, which is sort of on the sort of mid north coast of New South Wales. And I remember the tent, and I remember it hot, and I'm thinking they're big old canvas tents, and even then, I must have been about 4 or 5. I remember thinking how hot it was. But we had friends that used to do the caravan, the caravan park thing.
Yep.
And that would be their annual pilgrimage to go to the caravan park and do that sort of thing. And the stories that they've got of the friends that they would see once a year. So it would be little Kaylee or whoever. And every year they would reconnect with that family and those friends, and they'd have a ball. Something we didn't get to do, but so many of the people I know used to do that sort of thing. And I try and transpose that into our kids and maybe our kids' kids. And would they settle for that? What would they settle for these days? I mean,
yeah, I know. It's hard to know, isn't it, with all the things they have in their life. I can remember, Deb Tickle is one of our listeners on the podcast, and Deb, you and I both went to school with Deb. I can remember Deb and I have been friends since we were very young because our dads were friends. And Deb moved up to Sawtell, near Coffs Harbour, and I would go up and stay with her for a week for holidays, for Christmas holidays, and we would, go out with her friends, and we'd go down to the beach, and there was a place near her where you could hire canoes, and we'd get canoes and just go up the river. And I have very fond memories of Deb and I, a couple of girls, like hanging out together for a week, and yeah.
Yeah, and I remember the thing where it was the standard fare was we'd go to the beach in the morning, we'd come home, usually a salad sandwich at lunchtime, a bit of a rest, and you need to have a bit of a rest.
Yep.
Well, when you're 8 or 10, you don't really need a rest, but Mum and Dad probably do.
Mum and Dad do, yeah.
And there was usually an ice block or something thrown in the mix there, like maybe coming.
If you were lucky.
Yeah, that's right. If you were good. If you're good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the inducement to drag you from the beach to come and have the salad sandwich, then to have the rest. And I don't remember what we did in the afternoon. I do remember bringing home a dog from a holiday once.
What?
Yes, now. And it was at Kira.
Oh, no.
It was at Kira.
That's
rented.
what happened to Grandma's dog.
Oh, sorry.
How did you bring a dog home? Tell me that story.
We were renting a Queenslander almost. It was almost across the road from the beach at Kira.
Yeah.
And it was. I remember the holiday because the tail of a cyclone had actually sort of hit further up the coast, and they'd closed the beach and all that sort of thing. Anyway, there was a dog. There was this black dog that was next door, and I don't know whether the people were on holiday. I don't know. It was out on the street. It was just out on the street. And I just remember convincing Dad that the people that lived there, I don't even know if it was the dog that was next door now I think about it, but I convinced Dad that this dog had been left behind by the people that were living in that house.
So you had to take it on board.
And so we needed to take it. Now, Mum didn't know anything about this.
Yeah.
Mum wasn't in the car with us. She actually flew that particular year. She had a few medical issues. She flew. So we brought this stray dog
You and
home
your dad drove back to Sydney with a dog?
with a stray dog in the front seat of the car.
Oh, my goodness.
And it got home, much to Mum's surprise when we got home, to
I
say,
bet.
"Oh, good to see you. How was the trip?" Random dog just spent 14 hours in a car with us and didn't know the proprietary rules about, you really shouldn't do that sort of thing in the car because we can only wind down the windows. I got a dog out of that holiday.
Oh, my gosh.
Better than a postcard, right?
Better than a postcard. Absolutely. That's amazing. Oh, and I just remember where you were talking about that. One of the other very fond things about beach holidays was collecting seashells.
Oh, okay.
And there seem to be so many more seashells on the beach than there are these days. But I used to love, so you could collect the best shells on the beach.
Those holidays, just a bygone era, isn't it? Whether it's the seashells, whether it's, having somewhere to eat the packed lunch that Mum made or whatever, or,
Or
having
the car overheating. I think every time we went up there in the hold and it would overheat somewhere. We'd have to stop for a couple of hours and let it cool down.
That's right. And you never wanted to drive too close to the car in front because you needed the airflow through the radiator.
That's
and
right.
You'd stop at the BP or the Shell or the Golden Fleece, which doesn't exist anymore.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think the man probably came and still put petrol in your tank back then in the
Gave your
days
window
too.
a bit of a wipe too. Yeah, your front windscreen got a wipe.
Oh, that's another podcast about those jobs that don't exist anymore coming up right now, hey?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Hey, all right, I've got to go. I think I might go and plan the next holiday. I've got till, December to think about it.
Yeah. See ya.
All right. Speak to you later.
Bye.
The views and opinions expressed on the Big 6-0 are personal and reflect those of the hosts and guests. They do not represent the views or positions of any affiliated organisations or companies. This podcast is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be construed as professional advice. Please consult with a qualified professional for guidance on any personal matters.
Oh, and before we go, let's give credit where credit is due. Kaylee Harris and I came up with all the genius content for this week's episode. Our producer, Nick Abood, well, he keeps the lights on and makes sure we don't accidentally upload a cat video instead of a podcast. So thanks for keeping us on track, Nick. Nick?